Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics on Radam. Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Have you been watching the news? Apparently, the president left his cubicle, or he left the home, and he went into the what again? He went into the Oval Office. I mean, the guy continues to do some crazy things, infecting everywhere that he walks. You know, the White House is a hot spot. The White House is a hot spot. I'm going to play you a video later on that's going to show you what reporters are having to do, what their bosses are telling them they had to do. Michael Rudnin is watching from bed today, sent a COVID test out, expecting results later on tonight. Doctor's appointment tomorrow. I actually sent you a message, Michael, to see how you were doing. I was very concerned about you not getting that appointment, and I wanted to start raising, about it. But anyhow, I'm glad that you took that COVID test. Please keep us informed. Drop me a line. Let me know how you're doing. I know you're not feeling very well, but we care about our folks, man. So you just go ahead and you drop me a line. Folks, how are you guys doing today? Brige MCP, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Steve Schmidt. It's funny. I'm talking a hell of a lot about Steve Schmidt today. But it's funny. I wrote this stuff on Steve Schmidt, and I posted it. And then I saw, bing, my Twitter rang up. And who was it? Steve Schmidt started to check out what I was doing on him. But anyhow, look, guys, we are going to have a great show for you today because it's very important. We need to talk about how to live in the middle. Let's see if I understand what that means. But I know you're going to be sure to tell me. Anyhow, what is the show about today? Let's get busy. Vamos a comenzar con el programa. Let's go ahead and start with the program. Title of the show today is Steve Schmidt, Trump Will Lose. According to Steve, Karl Smith on progressive messaging. Maybe that is kind of what you're talking about, Bruce. I think you and Karl are probably made out of the same kind of messaging kind of a thing. So you're going to like the interview that I did with Karl Smith today. And polls. People are scared of the polls. Are the polls right? Are the polls lying to us? Are the polls telling us the truth? Of course they are. They told us the truth in 2016 as well. We just weren't listening, but they told us the truth in 2016 as well. We wanted to keep our blinders on, but no more. No more. You know what, man? Let's take our blinders off. Let's live into today, what the polls are telling us today. Of course, the polls could change tomorrow. But what the polls are telling us today is what it's telling us today, and it is up to us to ensure that it continues saying the same thing. And what does that mean? Making sure that we continue to talk to people and make sure they're going to go out there and vote. What is it saying? And make sure that we're telling people, go vote early. It is telling us a whole lot of stuff. And of course, Tim Whites has a very, very interesting thing to tell. White House has more COVID than Taiwan, Vietnam, and New Zealand. That is so true. That is so true. So anyhow, let's go. I mean, I don't think there's anybody who's going to say they support Proud Boys or Antifa at destruction, if Antifa is putting out destruction. But we can talk about that a little bit later. Anyhow, Steve Schmidt made it clear. We are in for a solid Biden win. Karl Smith on how to promote our progressive ideas. And folks, the polls are talking. Unfiltered, Steve Schmidt talks about the Trump re-election. He said the whole rotted, fetid thing is collapsing. In his words, it's downfall time. And that is not meant to be funny. That is not meant to be braggadocious. That is meant to say it is really time. For the sake of the damn country, it is really time. Biden is way up in Pennsylvania and Florida, and he's substantially up in a state that has been trending red, Iowa. He's outside of the margin of error of all those states. And given the distance of the margin of error, I would even say it is out of the margin of error of voter suppression. Voter suppression is generally good for a minimum, probably 1 point, can be up to 3 points. Voter suppression. I mean, I think voter suppression in Michigan, Detroit area, and probably Milwaukee area was on that order, 1 to 2%, which was enough to lose Hillary the election. But again, within the polls' margin of error. Karl Smith discusses how to make progressive ideas meaningful to those who are not sufficiently empathetic to understand the tenets. So, folks, vámonos a comenzar. Let's get started with, let's go ahead and get started with the first video. And the first video talks about if Trump, let me get the name of it, because I don't want to lie to you as far as what it says. If Trump can't control things now in the White House, how possibly could he control it for the country? Check this out. I did a few cuts off of the 11th hour with Brian Williams, because I mean, this little clip here is just astounding. And then we'll take it on the other side.
White House officials conceded on Tuesday that there had been an impression created that Mr. Trump was getting tested every day, and a reliance on testing as if it were a curative measure as opposed to a diagnostic. Yet the president himself was not tested every day. Senior administration official would only say on Tuesday that Mr. Trump was tested regularly. The reality of this virus and its persistence, despite Donald Trump's efforts to wish it away, deny it, continue to become more evident. Stephen Miller, one of Trump's longest serving and closest aides, he of the Muslim ban and kids in cages fame, just tonight reported he has tested positive. At least 18 people connected to this White House or the Trump campaign have now tested positive. We've also learned the Vice Commandant of the Coast Guard, Admiral Charles Ray, he's positive. Nearly all of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, including the chair of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley, now in isolation. Put another way, just about our entire military leadership is working and living remotely. Tonight, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, who's also positive, who now has 4 deputies on her staff testing positive, defended the administration, said it's working to ensure safety.
We're taking all necessary precautions. Obviously, there was an outbreak here in the White House, but we've been checking on staff, following necessary contact tracing procedures. While we've had a lot of asymptomatic cases in the West Wing, and most of us have been doing just fine.
If Trump cannot ensure the safety of the White House, the worsening pandemic proves he can't ensure the safety of the nation. It's that simple, right? That one event has put the entire military leadership in danger. He's endangered the lives of many of the people who work at the White House, good people who work at the White House, and some of them will do fine, but some will have permanent damage, organ damage. Some will have permanent memory issues. Some will have strokes that they don't know they have yet. All these things are going to happen because there are enough of them that got infected in Trump's super infection event, super spreader event, that a lot of these people are going to be hurting. So my question to you is this: how dare us even consider given somebody who is yet to accept the reality that what he's doing is causing people harm, that what he's doing is causing the economy harm, and that what he's doing is permanently maiming many Americans. He doesn't care. How dare anybody think that this guy could possibly have another term? I am positive Americans are much smarter than that. and that this guy will be kicked out in a landslide. Americans will have it no other way, lest America is America no more. So let's remember that America is America no more if America makes the mistake and do what they did in 2016, which is set us back internationally, set us back scientifically, set us back in every fashion possible. Now, Steve Schmidt, former Republican who understands his Republican mates, who understand those who are not completely in the cult, who understands sycophancy, who understands the nature of what's going on, and also the nature of polls. I mean, he's gotten a lot of people elected who shouldn't have been elected. He gets it. So what is he saying? Let's go ahead and check him out Unfiltered. Steve Schmidt Unfiltered. Steve Schmidt, take it away.
If I showed you a race where an incumbent was polling at or under 40 with 4 weeks to go, would you say that incumbent had a chance?
I would say they don't have a chance. And I think that, look, everybody was surprised by the result in 2016. And I think it's as simple as understanding this. Whomever the election was about in 2016, Chuck, was the person who was losing. And for 99% of the race, it was about Donald Trump, and he was losing. James Comey made it enough about Secretary Clinton in that last week, very unfortunately. And by 78,000 votes across 3 states, Donald Trump is elected president. But as my colleague Stuart Stevens points out, the only similarities between the 2020 election and 2016 are the 2 and the 0 in front of them. It's a very different race. Joe Biden has had the longest, most durable, biggest, most diverse lead of any candidate for president in the modern era. And I get the psychology of everybody wanting to hedge the bet and say, hey, listen, you know, Trump could win. He's got some magic juju here. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump's strength is being vastly overstated across the whole of the media, and the strength of Joe Biden is being dramatically underreported.
It does feel as if the game-changing event was the president's performance at the debate.
Well, it's been a week plus of total abject insanity, Chuck. We started out that week learning that the con man in chief is a Titanic tax cheat, paid $750, that's dollars, less than 1,000 in federal taxes. He owes $450 million in notes personally guaranteed to God knows who. We saw a debate. We saw a man completely out of control, unhinged, angry, rude, interrupting. We saw the same blustering buffoonery that our allies see. That's why they laugh at him in public. It's why we have 200,000 dead Americans from a virus that could have been contained. We saw the president threaten violence. We have every right-wing fascist militia group in this country believes they heard a weapons to the ready lock and load order. That's before his recklessness caught him coronavirus, and he exposed and decapitated his own campaign, much of the White House staff, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, precipitating a real legitimate national security issue with his total idiocy and recklessness. So this is all going down now. It's collapsing. Campaign has cash troubles. The campaign manager was hauled off to the psych ward. The former campaign manager tackled by the police because he's implicated in allegedly $40 million of theft from the campaign. We see scandal erupting around Kimberly Guilfoyle with her depraved behavior at the Fox News channel. Nothing new there, but she was sitting in the front row with the family as they unfairly smeared and attacked Biden. So this whole rotten, fetid thing is collapsing. It's downfall time. And so the walls are coming in on the campaign, on the White House, and he's going down. That's what's happening.
Now, tell me, I could not have said that any better. This Republican, Steve Schmidt, has been on point for a very long time. But here's the important thing that I think he said. It's in the beginning and at the end. In the beginning, he points out very importantly that too often we misread what occurred in 2016. Those of us who followed the numbers actually said it could happen exactly the way Donald Trump did it. We expressed that at Daily Kos and many other places because It's in the numbers. It wasn't an accident. It's an aberration in the American Constitution that a person could get 3 million votes more and still lose an election. But if you just do things in a particular way, enough voter suppression, enough voter intimidation, enough enough of ignoring your base, it is very possible. And all those things coincided in 2016, which we spoke about before it occurred. And at the end, he talks about the self-destructiveness of the Trump administration. Now, Trump got lucky and won. All he had to do was play the role. And he didn't. He had to be Trump. And in being Trump, since Trump has everything he touches fails. Every company Trump touches fails. So why would we believe when he touched the country he wouldn't have failed? And why wouldn't we believe that just like Americans saw other presidents fail and completely penalize them for it, wouldn't they do the same thing again? Ultimately, all the isms that Americans suffer from are mitigated when their personal economies, their personal well-being is at stake. It happened with Obama versus McCain. It happened in a lot of other places. People take their utmost. I know a lot of people are going to talk about Reed, whatever happened to Kansas, etc. But utmost their personal economies and their personal well-being for most people, that is. Now, folks, just for those, I see we have a couple of my conservative brothers and sisters here that somehow believe, no. Trump is going to win. He's going to pull, according to what Steve Schmidt says, he's going to pull the juju juice. Well, he's going to have to pull a hell of a lot of juju juice because check this out. And then you tell me, let's see. What juju juice can you pull for? Let me see. Can you pull for this? Democrats and progressives, they are so scared of this election. They continue to not want to believe what their eyes are telling them. And I'm going to repeat this ad nauseum. Our eyes told us what occurred in 2016, and our eyes are telling us what's going to occur in 2020. This is all math. This is all based on what people think and where we are. So please, people, just go out there and do your job. But to make you feel a little bit better, check this out.
We just got some new numbers from Quinnipiac, some polling from a few states. Let me share it with you. Elise, I'd like your reaction. In Florida, likely voters, Biden over Trump, 51 to 40%. In Pennsylvania, likely voters support Biden over Trump, 54 to 41%. In Iowa, likely voters support Biden over Trump, 50 to 45%. These numbers, how do you look if you are the Trump team? What do you do with this?
I never would have thought we would have seen these numbers, especially in Iowa, a 5-point lead.
Look, folks, do not dispute the numbers. Do not fear the numbers. That is what they are. What we have to do. And by the way, that's a likely voter poll. So that means these are people who have been known to go out and vote no matter what. But here's the thing, people. It's important because the likely voter polls that I am seeing today, I think they are conservative. In other words, I think they have that bias in there that we don't have a lot of the newer voters that are going to go out there and vote on both sides. But it so happened that on the progressive side and the Democratic side, it is larger than it is on the conservative side. These people that generally don't vote, that are petrified right now that they need to go out there and vote. Look, the landslide is in the making, but what we can't do is take anything for granted. All of us have to be encouraging people to do what we know we have to do, which is to get rid of this president. Why? Because to save this country is in dire straits, and this guy represents a clear and present danger to America. The only way to mitigate this for both our conservative friends and our progressive and liberal friends, the only way to mitigate this is to make sure he's no longer in office. Now, here's the funny thing, right? We talk about the president. Oh, he wants to get back to work, and and getting back to work also mean having FaceTime, mean having to talk to journalists and make sure that they can get his message out. There was a little piece that was done on the last, not the last word, but the 11th hour. And when I saw that, I had to do a rewind real quick and say, wait, really? This is so damn funny. I want you guys to check this out because you won't believe you won't believe what I am going to put here, because it's like, wow, only in America. Only in America. Check this out.
The president himself is trying to return to work as normal. As Bloomberg reported, as we reported today, he was lobbying to get down to the Oval Office. His aides tried to see if that was feasible to do it safely. They eventually nixed that. He was pushing for a live address to the nation. That has been postponed or nixed. And he's advocating to get out on the campaign trail. So you have different people handling it in different ways. The president himself, again, trying to pretend it away. And the last thing I will say is, for those people who do interact with the president, a private memo went out to senior staff. And if you're going to meet with him, they have something called an isolation cart. And before you go, you have to don basically what puts you in a full hazmat suit, a yellow gown, protective eyewear, gloves, and goggles.
We imagine that if you are going to be president, you have to wear a hazmat suit. That's what they're protecting their reporters. The White House is such a hot zone. The White House is so infested because of the incompetence of a president that does not believe in science, that thinks he could, or thought he could, wish the virus away. Wish the virus away. Now it's a hot zone that if a reporter must interview the president, they must wear a hazmat suit. Think about that, people. How embarrassing is it that this is where America is? How embarrassing could it get? Anyhow, we're about to do the Karl Smith interview, but before that, I have to do my gig. So, folks, give me 2 minutes here. Stay with me, and then we do Karl Smith. 2 minutes. Please, folks, go ahead and get my book. How it's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. It is a must now. If we really want to secure that landslide, we got to talk to everybody. The link of the link to get the book is on the screen right now. I just sent it out, the Amazon link. But if you don't get the link, you can always likewise just go to search for Egberto Willis at Amazon, and you can actually pick up our book. So please go ahead and get the book. If you don't want to buy it at Amazon, you can also buy it at our store. At our store, you just go to politicsdoneright.com/store. I know that is politicsdoneright.com/store. Not only will you get you can order the It's Worth It book, you can also order the Coup de Grace. The Coup de Grace is the first book that I wrote on economics so that the average person can understand it as I see it. Class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. And as you guys know, I've always had my weight problems, and I've licked it, I've nixed it. How? With Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. So what is a political guy doing, putting that book out as well? Well, I'm putting that book out as well to say, look, if you got a weight problem, now more than ever since, we don't know the state of healthcare or when healthcare is going to get together, hey, you may want to go ahead and do it all on your own, like I did it all on my own, and this would be doing it your way as well. So, folks, please consider getting all of that either at politicsdoneright.com/store or politicsdoneright.com or the link that I gave you to the Amazon. And, of course, if you just search for my name on Amazon, you can get it. By the way, anybody who's on YouTube, you can help support the cause. You can help us by clicking join. Please click join. It is less than getting yours truly a cup of coffee to ensure that we can continue doing this, changing minds, helping the cause, because this is not going to end now. This is going to require us doing this even after Biden is elected, because Biden, when he's elected, a lot of those people that helping, all the Republicans that are helping right now, they're going to want policies that reflect their philosophy. Progressives, who are the bulk of what's going to make the win, we want policies that progressive want, that are going to reflect what we are all about. So therefore, we are going to have to keep the fight on. We're going to have to keep the pressure on. So we are going to have to keep people informed, not only on the left, but on the right as well. So please go ahead and click that join button. Be a part of the family. We are going to do things together. And if you want to help immediately, other than join, you can go ahead and click that $sign and say, I want to give you a super chat because we like what you do. Of course, becoming a member of our team, our Patreon team, requires you to go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You do that, you also have a lot of perks that we give. And those of you who are not on YouTube but would like to join our team, our group on YouTube, please go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. That is politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. And by doing so, you are helping us keep the message flowing. Help us keep the message flowing. And, you know, every single independent journalist, independent program, we also accept PayPal, of course. That's politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Okay, let's go ahead and bring Karl into the fold. Karl and I had a great discussion today with regards to messaging. Here we go. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies. Today we are on Karl Smith. Karl is actually the director of Voter Education Project. And today we're going to discuss a whole lot of things. How can progressives speak in such a manner that everybody listens? We're going to go over a whole lot of stuff in this segment here. Karl, welcome to Politics Done Right. How you doing, my friend?
Very good. Thank you very much. We survived our own little COVID challenge here a few weeks back or a month ago. And my wife's a teacher, you know, and so she has to go from class to class, or actually in her job. And, you know, we've been so careful for so long, you know, wearing our masks since probably February or so. And then, you know, within 2 weeks of being back to school, you know, she gets COVID, and fortunately, she wasn't sick enough. She was right on the verge of needing to go to the hospital, but anyway, but I was also able to keep my 25-year-old son healthy. And so we made it through the ordeal. We didn't get the president's care. They just said, well, just write it out, you know, and, you know, which kind of really, she's pretty angry about that, you know, but anyway.
She should be. Right. But let me ask you, Karl, because a lot of people don't quite understand that this stuff is real and this stuff is no flu. Your wife was in a, from what I understand, what you told me for several days, your wife was in a whole lot of hurt and she was pretty weak. You isolated her very well in the home, and you and your son got the necessary tests to kind of do things now. You all went through a protocol in your home. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because that'll help a lot of people, because a lot more are going to get this disease. You had a protocol in your home that worked just right. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, I got her into, you know, a separated room. You know, our house, we have a kind of an addition. And so it had its own heating and air conditioning system. But even with that, the air circulates back from that room back up to like my upstairs office and so on. So it basically just opened up the window, you know, and there had at least cracked all the time. So any air going into there would get blown out of the house and not into the rest of the house. We did find, you know, and then, you know, anytime she came out, which was rare, she would have her N95 mask on. Anytime I went in there to, you know, give her food and you know, pick up anything. Help, you know, to see what she needed. You know, I would have my mask on and so on. Of course, wouldn't even have my son around her. After actually a couple of days, figured out the dog was also a source that shouldn't be going back and forth. But I think, you know, I've heard that the dogs actually can sense it. They're using that in the Netherlands in their airports. Dogs sniffing out people with coronavirus, you know. And so I think the dog could actually sense that she was in a bad way. She was probably about, I don't know, 5 or 10 times sicker than I've ever seen her in her life. So, but she self-medicated. Actually, we had some some Flexeril, which basically is a muscle relaxant. So all of her cramping up and all of her body aches and stuff, that would really help with that. She already has anxiety issues, so she took her anxiety medicine every day, which really helped her, through that. Because if I couldn't manage her, if she wasn't manageable, it would have been a nightmare,
But let me
for
ask you
me.
one other thing, Carlos. She had total body involvement. In other words, it was like a flu to the nth degree.
Oh yeah, she was she had severe headaches, so she was taking her migraine medicine every day, to try to help combat that. She was just extremely weak. She got she was having a harder time breathing, the lung stuff, hurting all over, and then just not really wanting to eat very much, just kind of really kind of upset and all that. But so yeah, she wasn't feeling good at all.
Well, look,
So
I am very, very happy that first of all that she recovered. Well, she's recovering, and
right.
secondly that you were able to create a protocol within your home that neither your son or you got infected with the virus. I think that is something that a lot of you hear of somebody and some families get the disease. It's almost like a short surety that everybody in that house is going to get it, and
Right.
found a
Well,
protocol to work on it. I think you also told me about everybody wherever they went kind of wiped down where they were, if I recall correctly.
oh yeah. Every time, yeah, every time I touched a handle, I cleanse my hands. I was probably putting something on my hands. I use like Clorox water for washing the dishes anyway. I just have a little
Right.
thing in chlorinated water. I actually probably doubled the strength of that, but I was washing my hands in that all the time. Of course, any dish, her room, with with that we had the disinfectants, alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. I was probably cleaning my hands probably 100 or more times a day.
Than you did before.
But and then we didn't test. They actually didn't want us to test whether we had it or not. Until like a week or more into the whole
Absolutely,
thing.
yeah. There's a reason for
So
that. The same reason why Kaylee McEnroe, the spokesperson for Trump, she came out negative for the first 4 or 5 days, and now she's
right,
positive. So
right.
that is one of the things you got to look out. Okay, look, like I said, give my your wife my regards. I'm very happy that all things are working out good. I think that is something people need to see. Now, we want to talk about. Right now we're about to get into this vote. Voting has already begun. And one of the things that I've said is one of the reasons I think this voting is going to go very well is that a lot more people are starting to open up and listen. And a lot of this is happening because people are learning how to, in effect, a lot of progressives are learning how to tell the message. Now you have a voter education project that you've worked with, and you've come out with 2 videos that tell people or kind of explain our issues to people. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the videos on how bottom-up economics works, and that's votereducationproject.com/HBUEW, how bottom-up economics works, and it just goes into the fundamentals. What do our people need to thrive? I mean, if you've got a system you want working, you've got to look at the necessary conditions, but also what our businesses need. What do they need to exist and thrive? And it turns out it's our basic public investments and all of that, and the right policies and everything. Actually, I was going to go into how do we counter the videos basically kind of get into a lot more detail, but I can kind of give a high level overview of some of the things that it covers. But in your book, I really liked how in your book you also talked about basically treating people civilly and listening to them, getting their perspective and so on. And treating them with respect. The GOP has been kind of pumping messages into their brain for about the last 30 years. Government can't do anything right. We need to give more money to the job creators, and Democrats just want to give your hard-earned money to the takers and so on. So these are the kinds of messages that all of Democrats and progressives and everything we need to counter. So the GOP is saying, oh, we just need to get government out of the way, and well, that may not sound all that wrong, and they'll point out how government doesn't do. They'll point out outliers, but they don't show all the stuff that government does do right. We're the strongest economy in the world, not because we did a lot of wrong things, but because we actually invested back after World War II. We had huge investments that made, put us on the right track, to be that economy. So government, business doesn't even exist without government, without government policies and stuff like you are pointing out in your book and so on. So, government, it's not that they can't do anything right. They do a huge amount right. And we need to basically sell what government and stand up for what government does for us. In fact, if all of us were just to do whatever out of our own means, it would be just, including businesses, it would just be, chaos. We need the structures of government and to allow us to be able to cooperate and have banking and have, commerce, all these things, and have relationships and everything that that government creates.
Now, Karl, I like the way you said it in your video. What do you call those entities again? I forget. You call it's like almost in.
Or you mean our basic public investments? Are you talking about?
That exactly. Yeah. Tell us a little bit. Explain it in that detail, because that is what a lot of people look at taxes as a burden. And the way you articulated it is we have to make investments. And when we start looking at things as investments into when you invest in something to allow it to grow because it had that seed to start from. Why don't you explain it in that?
Well,
in that
and
fashion?
This is all part of countering the socialism attack. Because anything that Democrats and in particular progressives, bite my tongue there, progressive want to do, they call socialism. These are actually investments in what our people and our businesses need to thrive and exist even. So we need to really change that debate from socialism. They want to make that debate socialism versus capitalism. And what we need is, make the debate. Progressives need to, own this and say, okay, this is enabled capitalism, versus rigged capitalism. So a couple more points behind the scenes. We need to remind people what socialism really is. Democratic socialism is a misnomer. Socialism, you have a democracy, democratically elected government, but a socialistic system. And a socialistic system would mean nationalizing our industries and taking away your businesses and property and stuff, and be public ownership of most things and so on. And that's not Democrats. That's what we're talking about. It's actually the kinds of investments that both our people, that's good for the people. These are the things that, education, healthcare, all that, good for the people. But guess what? Businesses need healthy and educated people. So is it socialism or is it enabling capitalism? And so I would argue that we're actually enabling capitalism to work for everybody versus, the GOP's rigged capitalism to work for the few. So I think we need to change that debate from the socialism. They want to make it socialism and capitalism. We need to make it rigged capitalism, their flavor of capitalism, versus our flavor of capitalism, which is enabled to work for everybody. So Democrats, we have three basic things that we do. If you kind of boil that, step back, look at it. And one is our basic public investments. And another one is valuing all workers. These are three critical things. And then the third pillar we have is a fair system. And the combination, it takes all three of those things to really make it work, for all of us. So basic public investment, what's that? Okay, well, that's, our healthcare. When we invest in government, they've invested huge. Our whole healthcare system has a lot of government investment, a lot of research, R&D money, and just, seed monies that both, this is federal, local, state monies that have gone into building our system over the decades. Education, it was only 100 and something years ago that 90% of our population was in poverty. What brought us out of that? Well, getting public education to the masses. And still, we're not educated enough people, to the levels that we need them. So we need more public education, more businesses have millions and millions of jobs unfilled because they can't find the educated and trained individuals. We're hiring, if we don't want to hire, foreigners to do these jobs, we need to educate our own people. So education is another big investment area. Infrastructure, obviously, Republicans get infrastructure, but and how businesses don't exist without healthy and educated people, but they also don't exist without the infrastructure. With research creates huge opportunities, for our businesses, and people. No businesses can exist without safe communities. Or if you had to have your own police force and everything for, you just really couldn't focus on your business. And community development, creates opportunities for your businesses and your employees and everything to be around, your customers. It just creates all that interaction. And then our safety nets. Our people need safety nets, but our businesses need safety nets. So those are our basic public investments: healthcare, education, infrastructure, research, safe communities, community development, and our safety nets. And guess what? We need all of them. We can't just do infrastructure and to hell with education, or educate fewer people, privatize the system, and then only the wealthier people get to have great educations, and hell with the poor, the poorer people. All that. That's a huge waste of human, talent, their potential talent. And then we need that clump of things. We need the research creates huge opportunities. A lot of our high-tech industry today, or all of it, would not exist without all the basic government research. Amazon, Microsoft, Intel, and Apple, and
they would not have existed without DARPA.
High-tech, would not exist today without those basic things. And actually now with the Green New Deal, or fighting global warming, we have this huge opportunity to put a ton of money into research that's going to change our the whole way you use energy. Just lots of new energy technologies, lots of new ways of conserving energy. Lighter materials and stronger planes in our cars, and just all these different technologies that will actually, those investments will pay off. Some of them will make us 1 million times on the money. Some of them will take, like the investments to create the microelectronics, that we, the government, we the people funded. How many millions of times have those paid off? Millions of times on the dollar.
Let me interrupt for 1 second there, Karl, because that point that you're making there is so important, right? We had to have those billions in seed money because it's so unprofitable for so long that the private sector would not have invested in that, because the government invests in things that many of them are going to be losers, right? Many of them may not come to fruition, but staying with these things till you get a perfected something that the private sector then takes over and do something with is what we're talking about. And I think that goes along with your tenet of investment. What do you call them again? I keep forgetting.
Basic public investments.
Basic public investment. Yes.
Right. And our investments in the technology, you said, okay, there's some losers there. And some people will say, well, we can't just, we got to, eliminate the losers, and make sure we're only invested in the things that pay off. But the thing is, it's a statistics thing. And let's say you spend $10 on one thing, and $10 on another thing, $10 on another thing, $10 on another thing, or you invest whatever, and you lose 100% on those. But then you spend $10 on another thing, and it doubles, and $10 on something else, and it goes 5 times. $10 on another thing, and it goes 1,000 times. All right, you can lose on a lot of deals 100%.
Yes.
And still be way, 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 way off better, by the ones that you win on. That's the same thing with education. Not every person we educate, becomes a Bill Gates,
and the thing about it is that losing is all, when you lose it, I don't know about you, Karl, but I've told my daughter this a whole lot. I've failed at more things than I have been successful at. And it's the failure of all of those things that have actually created most of my successes.
Well, even the spending that we do on those failures, guess what it does? It's a short-term stimulus. It actually puts money at the bottom of the economy. We don't get the long-term paybacks, over the years and decades of the ones that really, pay off. but we do get, in the short term, the money's going to the bottom economy. If you don't have a lot of money, you spend it quickly. Okay, that speeds up the money in the economy, and that's creating more customers and more money. And guess what? But businesses just love more customers with more money, And so what do then? They hire and invest, and that pulls their investment in. The Republicans say all this: give more money to job creators. Republicans think that if you just give money to people that have created businesses and all that kind of stuff, that's when they will invest. But they don't. They buy back shares and they do other kinds of things.
But
what triggers their investment is when they have more customers with more money. They just don't have the horse before the cart. They got the cart before the horse.
Karl, that is so true. And the other thing as well too is, if you have a population that is not stressed, in other words, they have the wherewithal to go buy stuff or whatever. Also, their innovative spirits or innovative mindset starts to set in as well, and they become that creator of something. That creator of something doesn't have to come from the top. That creator of something can come from Karl being able to know that he has a great safety net, can sit back and think about something to do. Millions of us thinking about how we could do this better. But Karl, we only have about 5 minutes left. So what I want to ask you is this. One of your tenets is that we just need to explain these things in a fashion, and it's something that we covered in my book. It's something that you cover on your website, is we have to, and give that website again. It is votereducationproject.com. You have to try to put things in the form of that person's reality. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we need to basically, talk to the people that don't get the moral argument, that why we should be helping other people and stuff. I mean, most Democrats, they don't necessarily understand the economics, but they know that they just work out. When we do the right things, when we educate people and give them health care and all that kind of stuff, the economics work out. Well, the thing is to explain that to the people that, they don't get the moral argument. We got to give them the economic argument that shows them how it works. What does speed up the economy and all of that? I mean, if you had $1 trillion and, in an economy but nobody spent it, the size of your economy would be zero,
Exactly.
But if it goes around 10 times in a year, then your size of the economy is $10 trillion. If it goes around 20 times, it's $20 trillion.
Right.
It's just money. It's not like one person has to do better or, one person has to do worse for somebody else to do better. When we all do better, the thing grows. It because it's going faster, more times through the economy gets bigger, it's creating more tax revenue and all of that. So it's about how to do that. And so when we, our basic public investments, they do that. We need to talk about valuing all workers. When we raise people out of poverty, poor people kind of suck as customers because they don't have much money. They have a lot of needs, but they don't have any money. So when we give them the opportunities that raise them out of poverty, when we, give them a livable minimum wage, and put businesses on the same playing field with other businesses because everybody has to pay that wage, then those are people that have customers, their customers with money, that expands the economy, so it grows the economy, all that stuff. So we need to talk about things like in healthcare. It's not only a moral issue, it's a human right. We need to change the argument. The GOP wants to say, if you like your healthcare, you're able to keep it. What we need to do is change it and get people thinking about, well, your employer-based healthcare, be there when you need it. And COVID just shows that no, your employer goes away, or you can transfer jobs or whatever. You're not going to have that health care that you need. And what you were talking about is stuff like all of us, we're a country of entrepreneurs. We see a problem, we'll go, well, I can do, I can fix that. So we all, so if you give us the wherewithal, you invest in our education and you cover our health care. We go to single payer, health care. Then I can go out and start a business, not worried about my health care. Into the future. So many people, there's so many potential businesses out there that are just being held back because the owners or the entrepreneurs there don't know that they'll have health care to be able to afford that.
Excellent.
So there's just ways of talking about this, and and showing the people that, okay, this is not, the 3.5 trillion that we spend annually. We're not going to do any, it's not going to cost us more. But go ahead.
In 1 minute now, tell me what you want to tell me that I didn't ask you or didn't think of asking you.
Well, all of these things, payback, when we invest in our health, we get everybody covered, and we get them, Europe, basically, they give their people, they not only cover everybody for about the same money, that we spend, on per person or whatever, or for the whole package. But they have better outcomes. They have, vision care, dental, hearing care, so they have more coverage. They cover everybody, and they don't spend any more than we do. But they don't have that inefficient insurance system just, sucking money, right out of, that could have been spent on actual healthcare. They're not spending this, 600-800 trillion on what we're spending, 600-800 trillion, a quarter, fifth, or something like that of our healthcare dollars are going down the toilet right now. That's a horribly inefficient system. So, we need to start talking about, that this is not going to cost anymore, whether it's whether those premiums are collected through, a tax system or an employer system or however that's done. We need everybody covered. And, the idea of fellow Americans having to go out and beg for,
it's not the way to be.
Their health care, the health care for their children, is something going to, it's just
it's
amazing.
Not right. Karl,
it's so immoral, and it doesn't economically make sense.
Karl Smith, director, owner of votereducationproject.com. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. Your words are very important, my friend.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, that was Karl Smith. Now it's time for me to welcome my wonderful, wonderful audience. Brige MCP, welcome aboard. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. Mike Cesek, welcome aboard. Tank 28, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here. Daniel Ledo, welcome aboard. Danny Lavilla, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here. Para ver, ¿quién más está aquí? Tim Waltz, welcome aboard. Jeannie Hoyt, welcome aboard. I saw quite a few more. Carl Foster, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here. I got Brige already. I got Tim Waltz already. Hope Bleeker, welcome aboard. I know you love this man. I do too. Instant Karma. Yes, ma'am. He's great. He's just great. I think you're talking about Steve Schmidt. But Karl is great too, Karl. If you're watching, Karl is great too. Okay, let's see who else is here. Bringing up the top. James Jackson, welcome aboard. Williams from, that's not Twitch, that is Periscope. Welcome aboard. Gracie Allen, welcome aboard. Para ver quién más está aquí. Okay, and who am I missing? I hate missing people because I like to recognize absolutely everybody that... Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Tim Waltz, welcome aboard. And I hope if I missed you, just go ahead and drop another line, and I'll be more than happy to... Vanessa Freeman, welcome aboard, Vanessa. How are you doing? Anyhow, folks, listen. There's one thing that I want to talk about. Joel Andre Bissonnet, welcome aboard. Joel Andre Bissonnet, welcome aboard. Sorry I missed you. Let's see who else is here. Look, not CSEC. Was it CSEC who said it? I want to address CSEC because I want us to be, like I said in my book, right? I want us to be able to communicate on the same basis. So here's what Mike CSEC says. You guys have a lot of great commentary here, but Mike CSEC says the following. The problem Karl Smith has, that's the guy that we just interviewed, is he doesn't understand investments and how money for it works. So that is what he believes. I would like Mike Cesek. Mike, I know how investment works very well. Karl does as well. You seem to have a different interpretation, or you have a belief that it works differently than how we see it work in a capitalist society. So my suggestion to you is, just like I interviewed Karl, I'll be more than happy to have a civil interview with you as well to explain what it is that you believe somebody like Karl does not understand about capital. So I'm willing to, that is what we get around here in Politics Done Right, true conversation. So if you believe that this guy is wrong, I would love to have a civil conversation for you to explain to me what is wrong in what he's saying, how do you believe investments work, etc. And again, just like we had the conversation with Karl, we'll have it with you. And for those who think, well, Karl thinks the same way Egberto does, so it won't be a fair conversation, that's not true at all. I've had many people that disagreed with me that were Trumpist, many people that were on the right that I've interviewed, and they've all enjoyed the conversation. Because what I like to do is sit down and get to what facts really are. And this is what else I believe with that. By doing that, what happens is the following. We may change your mind, or you may change a few things that we think. See, that's what I'm talking about. Anyhow, folks, look, thank you guys for being here. One last quick thing, please, for those of you that have just got here, please go get my book. It's worth it. That's the name. And it's worth getting the book. And the title of the book is It's Worth It. And it's worth it, how to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. Please go ahead and get the deal. And you get the book. I just put the link there. But if you don't want, and that is at Amazon. If you don't want to get it at Amazon, you can also get it at our store, which is the following. It's politicsdoneright.com/store. You can also get it at politicsdoneright.com/store. Those of you who are listening to me on YouTube, please consider clicking on that join button and become a part of our posse, become a member, become a member of our channel. And I'll see a thing come up here, and I'll salute you right here live as you click on that button to become a channel member. We're starting to build a channel membership as well, and it's very inexpensive, so please consider doing that now. If you're not on YouTube right now but want to become a YouTube channel member, I am putting that link in right now. It is politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Bridge MCP says, Egberto Willies, I cannot talk to them anymore, like giving medicine to the dead. Well, you know what? If you can't do it, Bridge, that is okay. There are some people like myself who have total political patience, and I don't mind getting involved because, again, it's been successful. Are you doing an election night show? Do you guys want an election night show? Let's have a vote. If you want an election night show, tell me we want an election night show. If I get 2 or 3 people here that says that, I would assume that each one represents a certain number of folk, and then I'll have an election night, not an election night, the debate night show after the debate is over. If you don't tell me you want the debate show, I won't do it. Let's say they won't talk, or I hear you. Okay, so folks, so if you want to go ahead and join us, just click that join button on YouTube, become a member. Or if you're not on YouTube right now but want to become a YouTube member, the link is what I just gave you, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. What I'd love to get some from you guys is becoming Patreon. So become a patron, click on politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. That is how you show your support for what we have to do. It's very important what we have to do. And that is, the message doesn't end after the election. It's just beginning after the election, because that is when we're going to have to start pushing these policies that we know support everybody. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.